Hi, I'm Alex, welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. So in today's video, we're talking about Golden Nugget Online Gaming again and the SPAC with Landcadia Holdings. Now there's massive news, this is all about the merger, it's what everyone's been waiting for, so you don't want to miss this video. So this week there was massive news that came out of a meeting of the New Jersey Casino Control Commission, and we're going to talk all about that, what it means for the transaction and when we can expect this transaction to happen. In addition to this, we're also going to address some of the criticisms I've seen about Golden Nugget Online Gaming and the transaction and address those. So before we get into that, very quickly, if you're new to the channel and you like investor related content, then please smash that subscribe button. Please smash that like button, it's so helpful in pushing the channel to a wider audience. And as always, I'm not a financial advisor, this video is purely for educational and entertainment purposes only. But let's get straight into it. So earlier this week, Golden Nugget Online Gaming was awarded a gambling license by the New Jersey Casino Control Commission. Now this is so important. What it ultimately means is that Golden Nugget Online Gaming can be its own standalone business and is allowed to provide the online gambling services which it provides. In the overall timeline of the transaction, this is so important. The merger itself couldn't go ahead without this regulatory approval, so this is a massive hurdle which has been crossed. The next step now is for the merger vote date to be announced. Now we don't know when that's going to be, but it should be imminent. Now during this waiting period, which I know has frustrated a lot of investors, the company's performed incredibly well. Steps and developments into expanding into new states continues to go well, and in New Jersey the company continues to perform really well. And as the health crisis continues and worsens in certain areas, this is a particularly resilient stock. And this is definitely something that as investors we should be keeping a close eye on. So I think in the next couple of weeks we should have news on when the merger vote date should be announced. Ultimately what that is when the shareholders vote on whether the transaction should be approved. Now one of the big criticisms that I've seen so many times online about this deal is the fact that it's not going to happen. Now look, I totally disagree with that, and I'll walk you through some simple analysis that explains why. Ultimately what it comes down to though is a clear economic rationale as to why it makes sense to do this. I know a lot of people are also very critical of the levels of debt in the company, but I'll come on and address that shortly too. Firstly, by actually executing this transaction, by spinning out Golden Nugget Online Gaming from the wider group, a massive amount of value can be created. Now, let me talk you through this and explain how that works. In the main group, Golden Nugget Online Gaming is a very small portion of what is primarily a brick and mortar, leisure or retail business. When one comes to thinking about what the valuation of a business like this could be, one's typically comparing it to other listed restaurant businesses and similar businesses. These can trade at anything from 1 to 4 times sales, but typically larger groups with less organic growth trade at the lower end of that. Ultimately in the big group, the high growth, the exciting part of the Golden Nugget Online Gaming business is diluted by this lower valuation multiple. By spinning Golden Nugget Online Gaming out on its own, it can then be rated at a valuation multiple much closer to that to some of the high growth gaming peers. Look at DraftKings for example, many of the other names which are all trading at double-digit sales multiples, 10 times, 15 times plus. So the value for Tilman Fertitta and for all shareholders is ultimately in the arbitrage itself, taking that multiple from say 2 times in the overall group to say a conservative 12 times. What you're looking at there is a 10 times increase in the valuation. When we know that revenues are about 120 million next year, that equates to around 1.2 billion of value that's created just by executing this spin-out transaction. Now this type of transaction is fairly common in the corporate world. Spin-outs like this are fairly common and that's just why it's being done. It creates so much value. What's more, having Golden Nugget Online Gaming as a standalone business makes it much easier to execute the strategy. No longer is it a division of a much larger corporate, it's its own entity. The strategy is all focused around delivering that growth and executing on the plan. On a standalone basis as well, it doesn't face any regulatory challenges by having activities and operations in other areas. It's just online gaming and that's all it's focused on doing. So look, ultimately the transaction is going to happen because it makes so much economic sense for every stakeholder in the equation. I know it has required some patience to date, but I think we're nearly there. I think the transaction should be executed soon, and that's when we can really see the fruits of the labour, the exciting opportunity that Golden Nugget Online Gaming has expanding into new states and delivering on its growth plan. Now the other thing I see a lot of people complaining about is the level of debt in Golden Nugget Online Gaming. Now look, if there's interest, I can do a whole separate video on this going into the detailed analysis which I've done. However, the high level points is that there's not much to be concerned about. Ultimately, the business is going to have $150 million of debt. Now, that's not concerning, it's totally serviceable. However, the one thing I do see people concerned about is the high level of interest. So yes, obviously 14% is quite a high interest rate they're paying for that. However, there's reasons for this. Firstly, given the size and scale of the company, and the sector in which it operates, a lot of banks and lenders can't lend to gaming companies because of the ESG risk. It doesn't attract the same lender pool as other businesses would. So as a result, the pricing of the debt is higher. However, the most important point here is that the debt is totally serviceable. If you look at the cash flows the company is generating and the interest which the company pays, there's a great interest coverage ratio there. Additionally, as the company grows and as gaming becomes more widely accepted in the US and more lenders are able to lend to Golden Nugget Online Gaming, the company can undertake a refinancing. And so personally, I think that's what's likely to happen. I'm not concerned by the interest rate, I'm not concerned by the quantum of debt. I've done the maths, it all stacks up. The other thing to think about when you're looking at an online gaming business like this is the fact there's not many fixed assets which debt can be secured against, which ultimately also drives up the price. Compared to a manufacturing business, for example, where there are lots of fixed assets which the debt can be secured against, it gives the lender greater security and therefore they charge lower interest rates. Here, there's very little which the debt can be secured against, and typically in businesses which are asset light, like online gaming businesses, you do see higher interest rates. So ultimately, as the legalization status of gaming changes across the states, and as the company grows, I think the company is going to be in a great position to refinance this for debt which has a lower interest rate. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please smash the like button. If you're new to the channel and you like investor related content, then subscribe. And as always, please let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. I find it so interesting to hear what everyone has to say. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.